Influencer marketing is evolving, and Robyn Nissim is leading that evolution. She built Ulta Beauty's first ever influencer program, grew Anastasia Beverly Hills to 24 billion followers, and took Alo Yoga from 0 to 4 million in under a year, all before founding her own consultancy, Social Proof Agency. In this episode of Strategy Talks, Robyn reveals how to go beyond campaigns and follower counts to build culture driven, social first brands from the inside out. Tune in for real talk and zero budget creativity, internal alignment, and what not to do when you build your influencer strategy. This is Strategy Talks. Stay tuned.
Let's strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Here's your host, Morin-van.
Hi, everybody. It's Doreen. I'm back with another episode of Strategy Talks. I'm so excited to be here today. We, of course, once again have an amazing guest. I want to welcome all of you who are here with us live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or YouTube. I want you to know we appreciate you being here. If you have any questions, put the questions in the comment. If we don't see it during the episode, we can always answer your questions afterwards. If you're listening to this as a replay, we'd love for you to pay hashtag replay in the comments. Then myself and my guests can also answer questions. And last but not least, as always, I want to welcome those of you who listen to Strategy Talks as a podcast. We so appreciate you. So today we're going to talk about influencer marketing, but go beyond what is influencer marketing. We all know what it is, but we're going to learn some new things today. And so let's bring onto the stage with me my new friend, Robyn Nissim. How are you, Robyn?
Hi, Doreen. I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited you're here. I was just telling you in the green room when I started doing the research for this episode, I am just blown away by all the different campaigns you've worked on and really what you're doing in your own agency. So I'm very excited to dive way deeper into quote unquote influencer marketing than I've heard anybody else ever talk about. So I'm just excited you're here. Let's have this conversation.
I'm super excited to be here. Let's get into it.
All right. So you've built influencer programs from scratch and scaled those for brands like Anastasia Beverly Hills, Alo Yoga. When did you first realize that influencer marketing could be more than just like a campaign and it could actually shape the brand itself?
Yeah. So I made a career out of being a millennial. And before I started in the influencer space, I started in the social space.
Okay.
And I accidentally found my way into what we now call influencer marketing, the creator economy, because I had quit my agency role where I was working for Nissan. And I was like, oh, I'm doing all of this for Nissan with zero budget. I can do this for anyone, anywhere. And I was young. I was in my 20s. I was disillusioned. And I was so quickly humbled when I learned the power of global brand recognition. Obviously, it's really easy to go viral when you're posting from Nissan. It's a household name brand. Everyone knows it. But when you're a startup that has low budgets and no one knows who you are, it was a very different story. And so I had to quickly get really scrappy. And I thought, what if I find people online who have a large following and I can like leverage them to get this brand out there in a way and try and reach more people. And so that's how I got into the influencer marketing world. It was completely by accident. And
Can you tell us what year or approximately around what time that was?
so this was like 2015, summer of 2015. and which is actually 10 years ago, which is crazy. And as I kept going further and further with this concept in my mind and bringing it to life, naturally, I started finding people in similar spaces. And I was able to work with the brand Ulta Beauty. For those of you who don't know, it is a one of the top beauty retailers here in the US.
Mhm.
And I scaled their influencer marketing program to $1 million within 6 months of working with them. Started out as like $13,000 small, tiny campaigns, like you were saying. And I scaled that to $1 million. And it was in that time working with Ulta Beauty around 2015, maybe 2016, when I realized, wow, this is something major, because it started with a campaign where we were just teaching people how to use makeup or driving awareness about a specific product or a specific feature. And then it was driving traffic in store and getting people to know about sales and driving online sales. But after working with Ulta back to back to back and continuing to grow that business, I realized, okay, Ulta has this one thing they need to do contractually with Urban Decay. And my client is complaining about how their creative team is backed up and they don't know how they're going to handle it. And like, this is just happening out of like client relationships, right? Like talking
Sure.
about the day to day, not her coming to me with an idea. Instead, her coming to me with her problems and me saying, well, hold on. We have so many influencers that we work with. What are the deliverables that you owe Urban Decay? Let's outsource it to a creator and leveraging creators like freelancers. And that was really when like we didn't create content online to be posted on any of the social platforms. We were creating content to live on the Ulta Beauty blog, that I realized like, wow, this is a whole different level of economy at scale. And this is going to be huge. It was crazy.
I love what you just said, and I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. So you said you're using creators like freelancers to create the content. Was that in addition to regular content going out, or was that the whole strategy of only having the influencer content?
So for that specific problem, it was just for the Ulta blog to fill that need.
Okay.
However, I was able to, I realized, leverage creators for whatever the end goal was for the client. So was it to drive traffic to the website? Was it to get impressions and drive awareness about a new product? Or for example, summer sales event, or when Ulta Beauty opened their in-store salons, getting the right people there and bringing their audiences in stores in event style capacities. So it really came down to what the goals and objectives of the campaign were. Sometimes it was external and posting online and bringing traffic in. And other times, like I said, it was just to fulfill a specific business goal, which was, okay, Ulta Beauty in their contract with Urban Decay says they're going to have an entire landing page and blog post with 6 different pieces of content teaching consumers deep dives on this one specific product. Let's leverage an influencer to get that done.
Oh, wow. So talking about Ulta, so you created that influencer program with them. Did
I did.
you encounter any challenges in getting like the internal buy-in from, the bosses, the stakeholders, and how did you align that influencer work with those broader brand goals? Were did they tell you what the brand goals were? Because that's one of the misalignments that, especially as social media managers, if you're watching and you're a marketer, there's a whole team out there, there's stakeholders, there's a C-suite who might have brand goals, but they don't always share brand goals with the marketing team, which is really important, because otherwise you're just working on marketing goals. And sometimes we have to make up the marketing goals. So how did that work for you? Were you able to get that buy-in from them? And did you, especially internally, were you up against anything, or did you see anything that you had to like move around to get there?
So I will say, I think this is such a good question because it's such a now versus then
Sure.
experience, time, conversation, answer. Back then, influencer marketing was so much easier. And because it was so new, marketing and the C suite was not open to sharing their larger goals with someone like me, who was working with someone who was at manager level, right? That's still pretty junior in their career, right? I was working with coordinators, I was working with other managers. I was at manager level myself. And so the C suite wasn't interested in talking about KPIs with me. They were larger marketing objectives like, we're launching salons in store. We need to get traffic there. We're launching salons in store. We need to drive awareness about that. We're launching salons in store. We want to host an event. How can you make sure people are there?
Okay.
And so that was about as much insight into a specific campaign that I would get, right? Again, I had really, really, really lucked out in the sense that beauty is truly like the unicorn for creator marketing because you get to see the transformation. And we know that when you can show someone a transformation in a video, like you've just now condensed the funnel into a single piece of content. Whereas, it's a lot harder for other products to get that payoff. So I lucked out in the sense that it was beauty. I lucked out in the sense that I had an amazing relationship with my client where we did just sit around and shoot the shit about things not related to our job that we were working on together. And that allowed me to go deeper into their business with just these creative ideas I had about how we could execute on social leveraging influencer. And so I want to make sure that I'm fully answering your question.
No,
But
it's good.
yeah.
We're getting there. Yeah.
And when we look back, it was like really truly the Wild West, and there was so much less visibility from the top down into what influencers they were doing, what type of traffic they were creating. If it was awareness, right? It was such a limited scope across the board. Whereas now we're telling senior leaders, if you want to make an impact, you need to bring social and influencer teams at the beginning into these conversations because they need to craft a strategy to make that happen. And then taking it a step further, now we have platforms like Social Snowball that allow you to make influencers your actual sellers, right? By creating affiliate partnerships with them. So it streamlines the whole process, whereas people can literally, without having anything to do with your brand, become a seller for your company. And so it's really changed a lot. And I think back in the day, for me personally, it was less about sales and more about views. We were selling views, we were selling impressions, and that's about as much as, we could promise to our clients, right? Because there's no direct conversion. It's not like paid media in the sense where you put money in, you're guaranteed to get money out. It's like you're putting money in, we can guarantee there will be views, but we don't know how that creator is going to perform, right? And so to bring it all together, it was so much easier then. And it was all based on views. And it came down to being a little bit scientific in the sense of taking the average of views that people would produce, right? And then us hoping that if you got a number of people together that got X number of views, that you would hit X number of goals. And that's how it used to be back in the day.
Right. So I have a follow-up question for that because you're talking about likes or views. So how does that translate now into what brands want is a community, right? They want loyalty. They want, they're building trust. They're building followers. We're talking influencer marketing, but there's also ambassadorship came into, probably around the same time that ambassadorship programs came into being. So how do you look at that now? Are brands demanding community building? Are they demanding more than view and likes? Obviously, they're also getting better, because we're setting the KPIs and you're involved in all of that. We're getting better data. We can actually, move the customer through the whole thing and see, this influencer sold this, like you said, on the different platforms. But ultimately, is that what the brands want? They want to build something that's sustainable beyond that one influencer. They want to have the community.
Yeah. So brands want it all, right? Brands want the influencer that's going to go viral. Brands want to reach new markets. Brands want to see ROI. They want to see sales. And what I think strategically needs to be understood by these brands is you can't have it all overnight. It's going to take time, right? You have to test creators to learn who are the creators that can make viral content. Who are the creators that spread awareness and get you into new markets? So for example, when I worked at Alo Yoga, it was just Alo Yoga when I started. Alo didn't exist yet. And I introduced the concept of the Alo sphere to the company based off of the KPIs that my CEO had given me. He said, we want to be cool. We want to be street style. We want to be fashion. We want to be it girl, men's performance, lifestyle, and wellness. Right now we're yoga. Right now we're spiritual. And we want to be all those other things. And I said, okay, let's go. We'll go do that. What did we do? We partnered with the Pilates girls. We partnered with the fashion girls. We partnered with, the tough, hyper masculine men's performance guys. We partnered with models. We partnered with lifestyle models, right? Victoria's Secret models, Kendall Jenner, so that we could now start to infiltrate all of those other communities. But that did not happen overnight. And so again, too, it's like we're partnering with some of these people, and some of these people are the foot into the door of where the brand wants to go. They're the gateway to the new audience, but that doesn't mean that audience is going to immediately buy, right? So this is where it takes time to see who are the ones that are driving that awareness for you and who are the ones that are driving sales. And that's the sort of thing where it's like, it takes time to get a program like that off the ground to really understand how you can make it work for you and almost how to classify each of your creative partners, because some creators are going to be amazing at cranking out content really quickly that you can then use for your paid media. Other creators are going to be really great long-term partners. And that's the thing that you're never going to know from a one-off campaign, right?
All right. This is so interesting, Robyn, because I've been on teams where we did influencer marketing. I've been with a big brand that did influencer marketing, and it was a little bit later, maybe 2018, 2019. But still, I still feel that was the beginning of influencer marketing. There were not a whole lot of platforms, and it was hard to figure out the sales and who was, accrediting, sales to the right person kind of thing. But it's so interesting how it's evolved and where we are now. So now you have social proof agency. You train companies to go social first from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to truly embed social strategy across all the departments, and where have you seen companies get stuck?
That's such a great question. So when I say social first, it means that the whole company is thinking about social in a positive way. And so, for example, something that I've experienced quite literally at every company I've ever worked for is people who maybe not intentionally, but are almost like betting against the social team. And so let's just say, like, you're a social marketer, you post something that has a typo. Instead of that person coming to the social marketer and being like, oh my God, we need to bring that down, I wanted to let you know, they're instead going above to their boss, or they're creating secondary Slack channels without the social marketer's knowledge and like putting them on blast, right? That's honestly not cool. And that's not teamwork. You all work for the same company. If social's not looking good, you're not looking good. So like there needs to be that baseline of like love and respect and support for social, right? I think that's like really at the core where it starts. And so how do you do that? It's by getting the entire company on board with the social mission. And as a social marketer, it is impossible to do that by yourself. It really is, because at the end of the day, there is so much misinformation about social media. And I'm going to say it, like lack of respect for the work and the role. Without question, it is the hardest job in marketing, period. And that is why you see so many social marketers become top CMOs. But that's a different subject.
There'll be another episode of Strategy Talks. No, I love this. And I love that you're saying this, because I have seen the same thing. Actually, today I was in a meeting. I'm working with a client who has a summer intern. There was one little mistake. I saw it. I pointed it out. And I said, as soon as the meeting is over, I'll fix it. Yeah. And it was done. And I texted her, it's fixed. She's like, right. Cool. We're not going to go call out the intern. We're not going to go take it down. We fixed it, and we could fix it. But that, I love that you say that. And then thinking about companies that I know where the company culture, the social media manager is trying everybody else to showcase behind the scenes of what's happening in the company. If there's just one or two people who resist, it spoils it for everybody. It's like, all of you get on camera, all of you get a chance or a photo or at least one trend a month. Jump in, help out, support, because that makes that job easier. And that lets people, if you're in sales, you should want to be on social media. Let me just say this loud and proud. If you're in sales and you have a social team, you should want to be on social, because by the time you meet with new prospects, they might have seen you on social too, and they feel familiar with the company. And so,
beyond even participating in the content, it's just being on board with the mission, understanding what social's strategy looks like, what the goals and objectives are, how they're doing it, and how your department can help social bring that to life. Because my philosophy is that social media is the heartbeat of the business. And as a head of social, as now somebody who goes into companies and teaches them how to be social first, that means that social needs to plug into every single department in the company to determine what here is good enough and important or meaningful, relevant, will resonate with our audience. What do I keep internal as knowledge, and what do I share externally? And that is the power of social media. It's the ability to bring together all of the little fragmented marketing efforts, your fragmented, one-off campaigns, whatever that looks like, right? Whether it's a charity that someone is passionate and started, but you wouldn't be able to find it on the website, or it's not a larger brand campaign. Social is that channel that actually can make sense of everything. And so just getting everyone on the same page, implementing those processes, those workflows to get that cross-functional stewardship, right? Because social is not a one-person job. It literally does take a village. And then of course, once you have that strategy locked in, it's mirroring your social strategy with influencer. And that's where I've seen the most success. And I think that where I run into the biggest issue is getting people to trust me that that's the way forward, because there is, like I said, that knowledge gap of like, just because you have social media independently doesn't mean that you know how to actually drive revenue from this channel the way that I do. And so there's a big knowledge gap. Yeah. I think that's like the biggest struggle.
Yeah. So you've been both in-house and now you're doing agency work. So how did those different experiences shape your approach to leadership? And what do you think? You kind of answered this a little bit. A modern content team should look like if you were to go into a startup and you got carte blanche and say, build a social team or build social culture, I guess, social first brand. How would you go about that now that you've seen both sides of the coin?
So With a startup, I would say you can't just have a social person. Like you need a head of marketing and a social person, right? And I think the founder and the head of marketing and the social person needs to be 100% clear on the social strategy, goals, and objectives and how you're getting there, right? Because as a founder at a startup, and I've worked for countless founder-led brands, founders oftentimes just want to hop on social and post their own thing and take over the account because it's their baby and they created it. And that's fine. And there's a time and place for that, but you need to work with your company and not against it. Right. And that's why I say, I think at minimum, you need that like 3-part partnership. And depending on how big your startup is, how big your team is, I would say once you have your social strategy and your plan of action, you need creative resources, whether that is whoever is designing for your email templates, whoever is doing the website, whoever is getting content for those things. Social needs to be plugged into all of that. If there's a copywriter, social needs to be plugged into that. If there's a campaign and there's copy written, social needs to be given that copy deck so that social is using the same language. It's like, again, heartbeat of the business. Social needs to be plugged into everything. And I think one of the biggest mistakes, particularly that I see with startups, is they want to bring on someone to do social when they don't have a head of marketing. And that's not ever going to work because social needs to mirror marketing strategy. Social needs to mirror e-com's strategy. Social then can inform, right, all of these other things. Social can work with influencer to get the content that's going to live on social. And then maybe it can live on the website. And then maybe it can also go in email. But social is mirroring the larger marketing strategy. And I think that that is something that is probably one of the biggest misses that I see, particularly with startups.
All right. That's awesome. Well, I was going to ask you a question about metrics, but I know there's a lot of other people talk about metrics. We're not going to do that. We have one question left. So
Okay.
I'm going to skip metrics. If you want to know metrics, I know Robyn has the answer. So connect with Robyn on LinkedIn or anywhere, and she can have a conversation with you about metrics. But I want to know, what is something that you believe about influencer marketing or social strategy that most people would disagree with, or that you think is just a myth that's out there that won't die?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think the myth, we tried it and it doesn't work for us, that is a myth. Like you tried it and it didn't work for you because you didn't do it the right way. Like the perfect example is like, okay, like I tried a marathon and it didn't work for me. Like, no, I didn't train properly, right? I didn't feel my body. I didn't prepare to take on a 26-mile run. There's no way I could just go do that, right? I had to go and build the endurance to be able to, you have to train for a marathon. And so I would want to squash that myth and say, oh, it doesn't work for us. It's like, no, it does work for you. It works for everyone. We're all humans. We all consume the same way, some different than others. But at the end of the day, probably everyone in the modern world can be influenced. Probably everyone in the modern world is on social media in some capacity and appreciates word of mouth marketing. It's finding the sweet spot and how it works for your brand. So the myth is that we tried it and it didn't work. That's a myth. It's you tried it and you haven't figured out how to crack the code yet, because it works. And I've proven that time and time again.
Yeah, I was very impressed. There's a huge list of industries and companies that Robyn has worked with on her website. If you want to see that, go look and be impressed. Because my thoughts are going like, what about a funeral home, or what about a construction company? Anybody, like you said, can be influenced. I mean, God forbid you have a loved one die. You go to somebody who you know probably had a funeral in the last 5 years and ask them about a funeral home. Who did you use? Right? Because you're going to trust somebody that you know to ask that question. So influencer marketing can work for just about any industry, like you said. I love that. Thank you, Robyn. This has been such a fantastic conversation. I want to give you an opportunity to tell people that are listening, that are watching, how they can connect with you and on what platform.
Yeah. So Robyn Nissim, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is here. Type me in. You'll find me there. I have a link in my bio that sends you to my website. You can join any of my group training programs. I work with individuals. If you are at a brand or a company and you want to bring me in to speak to your team, you can also do that through my website. I think I have my Instagram linked as well if you want to follow me on a more personal basis. But I post pretty much regularly on LinkedIn. I have a weekly newsletter. I'm constantly running training programs, speaking at different conferences. So depending on when this live, my next conference will be Commerce Roundtable in San Diego in September. I will be taking the stage with Gary Vaynerchuk. So if you're a local, come support me. I would love to see you there. And otherwise, like I said, I'm super active online. You can reach out to me through my website or any social media.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. If you have questions for Robyn, be sure to put them in the comments below, and myself or Robyn will answer them. Reach out. I'll make sure to put the link to her LinkedIn profile and her website in the show notes as well. Robyn, thank you so much for being with me today on Strategy Talks. I appreciate you being here, and I'll be back next week, everybody. Bye.